is your Classic Metal Show right here on theclassicmetalshow.com. That was a brand new tune from the band Reece. The name of the song was Look Before You Die. That is from the album Resilient Heart. And the guy with the most resilient heart in rock and roll and metal is the lead singer of Reece, the one and only David Reece. David, how are you, man?
Howdy, everybody. Thanks for the nice introduction. That was very kind. Resiliency is my middle name now, I guess.
No doubt, man. Well, David, I have to tell you, man, I said it to you a little bit off air. This has become a yearly thing for us. This is, I think, the third time in 3 years that we've chatted because you've had different projects out, man. You've stayed busy for a while, huh?
I think we talked with Sainted Sinners, right? The first and second one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. So this would be number 3.
Yeah.
Actually, I've released, Sainted Sinners was released in 2018, I believe in March.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had recorded a bunch of songs with Christian Tola, for the Christian Tola project, and written a bunch of songs with him. Myself and John Kippers from Praying Mantis sing on that.
Sure.
That came out in October last year, 2018. And then, of course, the beautiful Resilient Heart, November 9th. So it's been a chaotic year, but been pretty good.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, man, while I love the other projects, I really do, but I love this record. And I'm not just saying it because you're on the phone. It's I'll tell you what it is. You have a unique way of being in, quite a few different projects and projecting yourself differently in each project. With Reece, I think you're probably closer to home maybe than some of the other projects. The Bonfire, Tango Down, or stuff like that.
Thank you.
And
I mean, that was exactly what I was trying to do. Thank you so much.
Sure,
you got to adapt. You got to improvise when you work with other people. And you got to kind of fit their groove. But this was all me.
Sure.
But
this, that's not easy to do, especially when you're quote unquote known for other projects. It's got to be difficult for you as a singer to do something as natural as this record, Resilient Heart, feels, when the first thing out of every common fan's mouth is, "Oh, that's the guy from Accept," right? Yeah. It doesn't lend you to be yourself a lot of times.
Well, I got, even with Sainted Sinners, I mean, I'm proud of the albums, but I was getting really bored with myself. I was getting boxed into that melodic rock project guy, everybody promising the huge tours and nothing happened. And then somebody called me and say, "Hey, can you sing on my album?" And I actually do still have a day job.
Right.
So I went to Montana, 2017, to work the summer. Wasn't real easy because I'd left, I'd finished the Sainted Sinner thing, and I was at a bonfire and worked my gig, and I was literally in the toilet and sort of thinking things over. And I had asked Mike Tramp about his label and had, what do you think? And he said, it's good. They do what they say, and I'm satisfied. I've been there for ultimate years, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And I contacted them with the idea of doing something new and fresh. And my wife, Nadia, listens to a lot of new young bands or bands that have been around for a while that I kind of was like, oh, that's not cool to listen to them.
Right.
But I have a kind of a guilty passion for Nickelback and bands like that, their productions and their tongue-in-cheek lyric.
Sure.
So, guilty pleasures. But she also is always kind of scouring for new bands and stuff. And I have to lay there while she's in bed, watching her videos and looking at bands. And I say, what is that?
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to Mighty Music. I had sent some ideas that I had to some of the big labels. They said, we don't really know what it is. It's in between the chairs. I said, that's exactly what I'm trying to do. I don't want to be Whitesnake, times 10 again. Anyways, Mighty introduced me to this guy, Martin Frank. And he's in a band called Shotgun Revolution. And I said, let's see what happens. And he goes, well, I got a couple of tracks. I'll send them to you. And the first song was Karma on the album. Okay. I wrote that lyric in about 15 minutes. I went, wow, there's something weird here going on. Then he sent 2 Coins and a Dead Man, which I absolutely love, which has got that modern, heavy kind of thing.
Sure.
So I knew this guy was the right guy for me. And I was going to be approaching it differently, that rather than verse, chorus, blah, 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 big whoa thing, which I hate.
Right.
And I'm trying not to bore you here and your listeners, but what happened was that I came back from Montana back to Italy where I live. My wife and I live here. And I was really stoked because we had written a few songs, and I had demoed those songs in Montana in this little shitty, excuse my language, studio that barely worked,
Mm-hmm.
But the idea was there, and I sent it to the label, and they just loved it. A couple weeks later, Martin decided he didn't want to do it anymore. He was angry at the label. Okay. He was angry with a lot of things with his personal business with them, so he walked away. He was signed to them too.
Okay.
And he basically told me, I'm out. I'm not going to do this anymore. So I panicked because I really thought, this is my thing. Mm-hmm. What am I going to do?
Right.
So of course the label sends me like every B track from every metal band in Scandinavia that, I could predict what was going to happen after 5 seconds.
Right.
I said, no. These 3 songs that I've sent you were the template. This is where I'm going.
Okay.
So the producer on my album was also one of my guitarists. His name is Marco Angioni.
Okay.
He said, I have this guy that produces for me that is a pretty good guitar player, great songwriter. I'd like to pair you guys up. And here I go going, here we go again.
Right.
The metalhead with no talent. And he sent me Wicked City Blues.
Okay.
Second track on the CD.
Yeah.
And I knew right then that because I said to him in the email, don't even send me, thrash songs or something. I'm not interested.
Right.
What you hear is where I'm going with the album. So Wicked City Blues and a few others. And I said, wait a minute. So the lyrics started flowing pretty quick with him. And then he introduced me to Martin Jepsen Anderson.
Okay.
The other guitar player. And he knew the template where I wanted to go. I said, I don't want to be these trick pony records anymore. I'm tired of it. Sure. I want this to be a real thing. And when you said it in the intro, I'm finally singing like Reece again. Because, when I did Accept, I had been a club singer for years. And then here I am, years, it sounds terrible, but I was only 28 when I did that. I had a voice, but I didn't know how to use it. Because when you do clubs, you got to emulate the singer you're copying top 40 clubs, right?
Right, sure.
I remember the producer saying, you got a great voice, but you don't know what your voice is, who you are. And right. I got angry, but he was right. So I've been singing for, 40 years probably. And finally, I feel like I've come into myself. And it took a long time. I mean, I took a 10-year break.
Right.
So 30-something years of singing. But, so I just feel like, the band is right. The songs are right there. I mean, I kept Melta on bass, Melta Frederick Burkett from Saint and Sinners. Mm-hmm. I love the guy dearly. We've done tons of shows together with Saint and Sinners, and he just makes me laugh. And he's on tour right now with Ian Pace.
Okay.
And Ian Pace is doing like a Perpendicular Deep Purple tribute thing.
Sure.
And he will not tour with this band unless Melta is playing bass for him. So that speaks volumes.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, and dude, for people that have not heard the record yet, it's for me, and I'll just tell you what my first reaction was. I went into it with a thought process that did not turn out to be, which is a good thing. I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm saying it as I certainly knew Saint and Sinners because I had just talked to you, a year ago about it. So I knew that record really well, and I knew the first one really well. And I guess I made the mistake that probably most fans do, which was I just made an assumption going into Resilient Heart that it was going to be more of the same. And then when I heard it, it's completely not. And like you pointed out, Two Coins and a Dead Man, that's the best song on the record in my personal experience. It's just such a cool, like you have that 5, 6, 7 in the middle of the record, which is so good. I don't know why it ain't got the balls and Two Coins, which is just like it's got a flavor that I don't think I cannot honestly say that I've heard from you in a very long time, if ever.
Thanks, man. I mean, I my wife's favorite song too, Two Coins. She's actually in the video that we did with it. We had a model from Italy flake out. So I looked at my wife and said, you're going to be an actor today. So she actually kills me in the video. It's pretty hilarious, Thank God it wasn't one of those great Italian anger days because it might have been real. But I mean, that's one of my favorites. I love the Perfect Apocalypse. That's a great song. Ain't Got the Balls. That's another one. That one just kind of clicked in my head one night. I was watching a Billy Idol video, actually.
Right.
And watching Steve Stevens with that ding, 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 the stuff that he does so well.
Right.
And I just started singing that weird melody in my head, and I called Martin immediately. I said, hey, can you start playing something against this vocal melody? And we wrote it on the phone. And the next day I had a, kind of a flesh out to do that he had recorded that night. But I mean, I had the drummer on the album, his name is Philip Meese. And here's how it all kind of fell together. I did Sainted Sinners. And once again, Frank Ponte disappears with Bonfire. That's not fair. We had a good album. I wanted to tour, but Bonfire is paying big money. He's gone.
Right.
And Mouth and I are kind of standing around looking at each other going, what are we going to do? So I said, I'm going to go to Montana and write this album, blah, blah, blah. And I came back, and when all this stuff was cooking for this solo album, a friend of mine, Giles Lavery, who manages Graham Bonnet, he called me one day and he said, Reece, I got a bone to pick with you. He goes, it's the 30th year anniversary of Eat the Heat, and you never toured that album. You never gave it, it's Just Cause. And I said, that's weird you said that, because every gig I play now, people tell me what the album means to them. I hated you. You broke up my band, or I loved you. But, it's kind of one of those albums that stayed. They pulled it out and dusted it off, played it, and said, wow, this is pretty good.
Right.
So I got in contact with some people, did some Eat the Heat gigs, and one thing led to another, and I'm playing all the time, right? And Philip was brought in by Malta to play on the solo album because he had played with him before. So we went up to Sweden and did some Eat the Heat gigs, and the guy was a nervous wreck. I mean, he never really toured. Amazing. Some drummers are musical too.
Sure.
Like on this album, a big plus that he did, he's a very musical drummer. He creates a sound that, so it crushed me because he called me after he left Sweden and said, no, I don't want to do this, man. I'm going to stay home, play in my studio and play blues. So I found a great drummer, a guy named Andrea, an Italian guy. He's touring with me on the U.D.O. stuff.
Okay.
But so far, the stability of the unit has been really positive. I like everybody, and I'm a big guy about loyalty.
Sure.
Even though I don't know what your life is like, but I'm the boss, sort of. But if I come up with an idea, at least I have the generosity, or whatever the word is, to ask them, what do you think about that? Are you comfortable with that? Because if you're really a band dictator, a lot of guys that I've worked for, they just say, be here this day, this is the song we're playing, blah, blah, don't even question it.
Right.
I'm not like that.
No.
But if I have made up my mind, I'll do it,
And you know what? You can't be like that in music if you want to create the best music, because and you know this. I mean, I write books. I don't have the creative mind to do music, but I do have the creative mind to write books. And
cool.
If I only go from my own head, then it's only going to sound like, what I want. And that's not necessarily the win. The win is when you create something that's just great. It's universally great. And a lot of times, at least this is what I've found, a lot of times you can't be fully creative if you're self-centered. And it sounds like you're in the same boat with that.
Well, have you ever written a book? I'm going to interview you.
Okay.
Have you ever written a book where you just were thrilled to watch your hand page after page, and you couldn't wait to wake up and put down what you dreamt about or what you've been thinking about driving home, and you were just talking in your phone, recording it? Have you ever done one like that?
Absolutely, every one of them. I don't map anything out. I literally sit down and just bloop and scribble out whatever comes out of my head. And I don't go back and change anything. For whatever reason, I have that unique gift. But like, I've written various books on various stuff, and the last 3 of them are music, and then 3 of them are like personal life stuff. One about divorce and one about an accident I was in. So, but with the music books, I put out one, 2 years ago, and I got some blowback. And instead of looking at it as, well, fuck you, how dare you say that to me? It's my book. I listened to what these guys had to say about, now maybe you need to incorporate a little more of this into that, and incorporate a little more history of what I was writing about, as well as my own personal experiences. So then I wrote the next book, the current book that I have out, and I did that more, and the response has been universally positive. So by listening,
so you're open.
Yeah,
you're open.
I'm open, and I created a better product. And in the end, any of us that are creative, that's all we really want to do. We certainly want to, if it's got our name on it, we certainly want it to be, our project. We don't want it to feel like it's somebody else's, but we still want the best. You could record a record that just blows, and if you're the only one that thinks it's good, after a while, you'll be like, oh, why did I do that?
Yeah. I mean, I ask you that question because I've done a lot of albums in my life, obviously.
Sure.
And to this album, I was like a little kid driving to the studio because I was kind of like you, with taking the advice. Had a studio at home for a while. I'd go in and crank out a couple hours, and I'd think, God, I'm a great singer. I'm the best thing on the planet. Play it for somebody else, and I go, dude, that's not Reece.
Right.
And I get angry, and I realize if I had a studio at home, and I can barely turn on an iPhone anyways, I'm not that good at this stuff. So I would look at the room and go, nah, I won't do it today.
Right.
But this motivates me to leave and go to Tanzan Studios, which is like 30 minutes from my house, and work with Mario Percadani, who brings out that ding in David that I can't really touch, that I think I'm touching, but I'm not. But he touches it.
Right.
So I was like a little kid, because normally when I do an album, I don't know about writing books yet, because I'd love to one day.
Sure.
There are those little stinker songs that you go, oh, God, I'll sing that next week, and you keep putting it off. And it kind of sounds like that when you listen back, like, that one just, you can't polish a turd because it's still a turd.
Right. Exactly.
I mean, it's not really terrible. It's just not exciting. It's like, I got to put that 10th song on the record now. Let's avoid it until we just haven't we have to do it,
Right. No,
but that's why I asked.
No, and you're so right, man. I want to go back a little bit to the loyalty thing, because I'm going to bring up a thing that I've always thought with you that just straight isn't fair. And, and I'm not asking you to badmouth anybody, especially the fans, but I do want to ask the question to get more of an overview thought. I always thought, and I still think, that the fans were mightily unfair to you when you did join Accept, when you did Eat the Heat. I thought the fans, and to be honest, and this is me speaking, not you, but I think it showcases itself even more now with the love that they've given Mark. I don't think that I understand nobody likes to see their favorite guy leave a band and blah, blah, blah. And I understand the iconic nature of U.D.O. That being said, it wasn't your choice that U.D.O. left the band. It was your choice to get an offer and come and do the best that you possibly could with it. And and it just never seemed like the fans gave you your respect that you should have earned for keeping their favorite music alive.
Well, it wasn't. It was, the hard part I've thought about this, of course, my whole life. It was 30 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I don't think Accept were thoroughly prepared to make that choice. They were following being pulled by the ring in their nose by the labels in America. Mm. This band is set up huge in Europe. Let's cross over the pond and really break this thing. So they were like, yeah, we want to be famous, more famous and richer, Right. I don't really think they considered how big U.D.O. really was. Now, you got Mark Czernillo. Mm-hmm. He's a sound-alike. I mean, he's a U.D.O. copy.
Yeah.
And that sound works inside that German thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they can, never really heard them admit that they weren't prepared for what they really did. Mm-hmm. They blame me for a lot of things. But, if you think about the comparisons, there's a guy named Ronnie James Dio joined Sabbath.
Yeah.
And sings circles around Ozzy, but Ozzy's a character.
Mm-hmm.
And the same thing happened. And Ronnie said one time to me about it when we talked about Accept, because he knew those guys. And He said, when I joined Sabbath, it was kind of the same thing, but on a bigger level, obviously. People were holding up sheets, go home, where's Ozzy? And he said, I just went out there every night with the attitude that I'll stick my head in the lion's mouth, and if he bites down, there goes my effing head. Right. And I mean, I just looked at him, and I went, wow. And he was doing his solo thing again, and I went, man, you've made some records that are just unbelievable with Sabbath.
Sure.
I think better than anything they did with Ozzy. I mean, musically. But he was crucified.
Right.
Like, he had, for joining, and then they changed it to, heaven and hell and all that crap. But I mean, I've been through it, but I can say now that's weird that these diehard Accept fans come around kind of like sheepishly, and hey, I have to be honest, I hated you, but I have to give you credit. This is a great album.
Right.
And I actually I didn't know they'd released like a 3 or 4 song full LP size of it, like 4 tracks.
Right.
And a guy that's a really good friend of mine named Lasse brought it to a gig in Sweden, a gold record.
Okay.
And handed it to me. And I've got it on the wall behind me now. And I look at it every day and I go, you know what? I did it. I wouldn't be talking to you, buddy, if it wasn't for Eat the Heat.
No question, man. But and it always, I'm an Accept fan. I love them. I absolutely love them. Still love them. Loved them then. Loved Eat the Heat. Bought Eat the Heat. Saw you play Eat the Heat. When you guys toured. I was a fan of it, and I never understood when people. And to be honest, I argue this point with our fans a lot. They'll be like, well, if it's not the 4 original members of KISS, it's not the same, and or whatever band. Pick a band.
I just had that conversation last night, actually, about KISS. I was standing in the street in Milan.
The point is that for you, as the guy that stepped into the shoes, it isn't your fault. There's 2 choices that people could have: nothing, or the next guy that's picked by the band to step up steps up. You obviously stepped up. Maybe people at the time didn't give you the right attitude, but more and more as time has gone by, people love and appreciate Eat the Heat. I see more and more people like it.
Why can't they just say, hey, it's part of our legacy? I mean, I've heard even as Wolf going as far as, don't ask me about David Reece in interviews. Don't bring up that part of my history. You know what, pal? I've got a couple of stinker albums in my collection in my life, too.
Right.
It gives a story. It's a story to talk about. You don't have to badmouth each other. You can say, hey, it just didn't work. It was a great experience. Because I think Wolf Hoffman actually got to play some pretty impressive guitar stuff. I took him to see Stevie Ray Vaughan once in Bonn, Germany, with 20 people in the audience.
Wow.
He stood in that audience watching this guy play. There was nobody there. Stevie sat down on a drum riser and said, let's have some fun, y'all.
Right.
And we both I drank about 6 beers to his, but he was standing there with the same beer in his hand and hadn't taken a sip in a 90-minute set.
Wow.
And looked at me when it was over and said, what just happened? We went to a place called World of Music, WOM, and it was a 24-hour vinyl store, CD store. He bought every Stevie Ray Vaughan album he could find.
Nice.
and practiced. He was clueless of the guy because he's a German.
Right.
And he said, who is this guy? And I mean, on that album, you get some David Gilmour tones with Generation Clash. You get, he kind of stepped out of he's one of the greatest, metal guitar players in the world. But he got to show that he could actually play.
Mm-hmm. No doubt.
I give him credit for it. But I mean, without that album, I mean, go ahead and hate me. I mean, and there are people that hate me to this day. It's crazy. They don't think about the inner workings of a band. I mean, managers make a lot of stupid decisions. Okay, and if things are really working, and you think, wow, we could even work more, and they say we have to do this. I've done it.
Sure.
And said, okay, I'll follow you into the gates of hell.
Right.
But deep down inside, I always had this feeling. I had this conversation with the wife last night. We talked about chakra and all this stuff. And she goes, do you believe in a broken heart that your heart feels? And, I said, no, I get a gut feeling. And she goes, me too. It starts in the gut.
Right.
I've learned over the years, if I don't like something, I'll say no. Because I was terrified. After Accept, I thought my life was over because they did everything in their power to destroy me.
Right.
So, we had a vicious press war. Like anything, I realized after I was getting led around by these managers in L.A., one day I just said, no, I'm not going to do that. And it was amazing to me to hear them say, well, what would make you happy, Mr. Reece? It was that easy. I'm thinking, I wasted 10 years of my life being frightened of these clowns that drive these nice cars. I mean, they're working for me, and I'm scared because I didn't want to lose my deal.
Right.
And that's how they play you.
Yeah.
But now I'm more confident as a person, as a singer, and if I don't like something, I'm going to tell you. And it's not in a bad way. If a guy's saying, oh, we think the band should do this, I'll say, I don't think we do.
Right.
And then it's always cool because then you open it up and go, why do you think that? And they say, well, because those guys did it. And I go, why should we do it then?
Yeah, it's already been done.
Yeah. And it's not, I mean, rock and roll is not about creating the new NASA space probe, dude. It's been done. I think it's a performance in how you portray yourself,
Right.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all about that.
And to be honest, if you pick any of the great records or even your own personal records, the ones that you find to be the best, they're the ones that you were able to stretch out and do your own thing the most on. You know, and
Yeah.
I would imagine right now, today, and I'll imagine this will change in 2 years, but I would imagine right now, today, in your mind, Resilient Heart's the best thing you've ever done. And it's because it's because you had the freedom to do it and you did it your way, but you had, you know, even from what you were describing earlier, you had great people around you, you had a great vibe around you. So everything about it was positive, and it helped you create more positive music, you know, at least to yourself.
Yeah, and you know what I notice about the guys that I work with, especially Marco and Malta?
Mm-hmm.
You know, a lot of guys will use a guy like David Reece to get a boost in their career.
Sure.
You know, they're going to play bigger stages. I mean, I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
I joined Accept for that. It's part of the game. But, you know, they also give back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm on the phone 24 hours a day. I mean, it affects your family life in this business. You know what media is like.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nonstop. If you're not out in public, I mean, look at the Dead Daisies. I think they're probably one of the best media marketing groups out there right now.
Sure.
Playing basically cover songs every night and selling out big places all over Europe.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but every day, one of those guys is saying, "Hi, Doug Aldrich. Hi, Marco." I mean, they're talking to the people.
Right.
That's what I do. But my band, I can say, "Hey, I need a hand with this. I don't have time for it." Done, Dave. I mean, Malta booked the hotel schedule for the U.D.O tour that's coming up. You know, I mean, he didn't have to do that, you know, but I speak German, he says. I'm a German. We're going through Germany. Let me book it. Okay. Did a great job. You know, Marco, the guitarist, I mean, him and his wife, actually, Lena Angione, she films the videos. All but one of them will be done. Mm-hmm. And he and her sit and edits it and do everything together. We don't get paid for that.
Right.
You know? So I don't have to beg and borrow. I say, guys, can you? No, man, it's already done. We're on it. So that kind of stuff, it keeps it flowing, you know?
Right. No, definitely, man. And I will say that's a brilliant piece of marketing that you're doing right now by doing the tour with U.D.O.
Oh my God!
Makes perfect sense, man. And
dude, can you imagine how weird this is?
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm blessed. I joined Accept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Guess who's next door to me while I'm doing Eat the Heat? U.D.O. Now, if that's not one of the most awkward positions to be put in, here's a guy who used to sing balls and do Restless, and here's the guy who's just been replaced by me doing Animal House next door to me,
right?
With Mark Dodson producing. So I'm getting to know Andy Susamil and Matthias Deed and all these guys, and they were more party orientated and fun, like an American way, than the guys in Accept were. So I spent a lot of time over there with U.D.O. and the guys,
right?
So, and he always treated me with class, never hostile. He's like, "Hey, man, it is what it is."
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, I've always had this kind of like weird thing in my head. You know what? I would love to write a few songs and do a duet with U.D.O.
Sure.
A Survivor kind of thing, like we're survivors, or we're doing an EP or whatever. Maybe I do a couple old Accept songs, and you know, I sing them, and then he sings a few Eat the Heat songs, and then I write one with him, and then we sing it.
Yeah,
you know?
That'd be great.
Nobody ever, I know, but you know, it's like, and oh yeah, sounds a great idea, blah blah. And I would contact management, and they'd blow me off. So after I did the Eat the Heat stuff, Jimmy K show, right? I was interviewing U.D.O. and he said, you know, what do you think about ever, you know, recording an album with David Reece? Wouldn't that be kind of cool? And he goes, you never know what will happen.
Huh.
So I'm sitting there going, I get an email from Jimmy and Giles, the Graham Bonnet guy, and I said, you know, who pushed me back into Eat the Heat. And I said, you know what? I'm going to write him. So I wrote his son, Sven.
Okay.
And Sven used to open for me in a band he was in called Damage. They would bring 200-300 friends in clubs that I played in Germany, and they rocked.
Right.
But his first answer is, David, great idea, but I'm not the decision maker. It's the management. So give me the name. I got the name, and I wrote him. And the guy went, let me talk to the boss, being U.D.O.
Yeah.
And I can tell you, man, I got hit. They asked me to do the whole tour in Europe and America,
wow,
which is not possible for me.
Right.
So I started out with February 1st through the 13th in Germany and Switzerland. Mm-hmm. And you can go to U.D.O. official or David Reece official and see all this stuff. So, all right. So Marco looked at me and goes, you know what's going to happen, don't you? He said, when the promoters catch wind of Reece from Accept and the original Accept singer are touring together, it's going to explode.
Yeah.
He wasn't kidding. About a week later, hey, you want to do Czech Republic? There's 4 shows there. Well, I can't do those. He goes, well, what about Scandinavia? So literally just yesterday, I took on another 14 shows. So I think I'm doing about 30.
Wow.
But it's like every interview I do is like, dude, this is perfect. You know, because it was weird because right when it happened, Peter had just left Accept.
Right. Okay.
And now they're a pretty protective unit of each other right inside there. And he had announced, unbeknownst to the band, that he was leaving. He did it on Facebook.
Right. Right.
Mind blower to the band, right? Mm-hmm. So I made a comment on a social media page. You know how you got it, the blowback about what you did.
Yeah.
The book. And I just mentioned that, you know, the guy is on a brilliant bassist, and he was one of the main songwriters of the band, truth be told, right? Mm-hmm. And, oh, God, the management came after me. Emails were flying. How dare you? How could you say this? Our world is, we don't know what to do. Please don't talk this way. I didn't say anything bad.
Right.
You know? So I was talking to some other people, and it's like, I'm getting attacked on this side. So I went on Jimmy K's show, and I said, you know, I wish Accept well. I hope they can find somebody to replace him. It's going to be tough, but I wish him well. And then at the same time, isn't it weird how the U.D.O. tour fell into my lap?
Right.
So think about that. 30 years later, you know, I mean, I did Sweden Rock in 2007.
Okay.
U.D.O. played. He was playing like the B stage, like 5,000 people. Mm-hmm. And I played like the pallet wood stage, right? The crap stage in the tent. And I looked out in the back of the audience, and there he was leaning against the back of the tent with his baseball hat on. And he looked at me like, don't say anything. He wanted to see me sing.
Right.
He did. About halfway through my set, he was gone because he had to go on stage. So I got VIP, and I went behind his stage and watched him on the screen.
Okay.
And I'm like drinking and partying with the guys, you know, and having fun. I'm like, wow. And then I see the drummer walk by and give me a dirty look. I'm like, well, that was pleasant. And then a guy walks up to me while covered in laminates, typical tour management. Hey, U.D.O. really wants to say hi to you, Dave. Is that okay with you? I said, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And if you look at some of the magazines and photos on Facebook, there's a photo of me in a camouflage shirt with U.D.O. smiling. He said, I was told by the guys in my group, if I talk to you, they're going to quit. And I told everybody to go home. I'm going to go talk to Reece. So it was kind of a weird situation for a while. But that was, I mean, it was awesome. And when his son would play with me, you know, if he was around, U.D.O. would come to a gig and, wow, U.D.O.'s in the crowd. Reece is here. This is going to be great. So I'm really excited about it. They've been treating me so well, and they keep throwing more shows at me. You know, who knows what's going to happen?
Right.
I mean,
that's a good problem to have in 2019, right?
I'm not, you know what? I don't like turning down shows because of logistics. I want to play every day. Because I came from that world.
Right.
You know, U.D.O. can play every night. That guy's got ironclad vocal cords. The guy still sounds like he did 30 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could have the tours that he has. I mean, and not being able to do like four in the Czech Republic, I thought I was going to die that day. I mean, I was trying to find any way possible to do those gigs because he's big there.
Right.
You know, and I do pretty good there. So it was going to be really special. But sometimes fate is what it is.
Right. No doubt, man. But it is such a great tour, and the timing couldn't be better because you have this great record out there.
Yeah.
And, you know, this, in a way, this feels very 1985 to 1990 in that put out a great record, get on a great tour, expose the music to the right people that would enjoy the music in the first place. Very old school.
And you put two guys that come from the same genre who knew each other and lived together. I mean, you've got that whole 40-year span of people, curiosity.
Right.
Steel Factory is one of his best albums.
Absolutely.
I think. It's kind of like an Accept album. You know what I mean? And it's like, wow, these riffs from these young guitar players, killer. So,
and nostalgia. You know, you get the nostalgia of you and him together, you know, and exactly. And I have to imagine there's going to be shows where you might pop out at the end of the set to do a song or something. You know, I mean, I'm not saying that's happening, but
you're not the first. Believe me, I've been asked that about every interview. Would it be suffice to say that U.D.O could wander out on stage during Generation Clash or, Ecstasy? And I'm like, well, I mean, it's up to the boss, isn't it? And because I do 4 songs in my set off of Eat the Heat, obviously.
Sure.
And I would turn around and do the bow. Come on, take the mic, buddy. Do it. I mean, it would be incredible. But of course, after a couple nights and things, start warming up together, we can sit around and say, hey, what do you think? You want to do it? He'll probably say yes, or he'll say no. So
right. No,
he's the boss.
It's a great tour for you, man, and it's a deserved tour, if for no other reason than people. And again, not saying this to kiss your ass. I'm saying it because I honestly, truly believe it. Resilient Heart is a great record, and people need to hear it. And it's almost bothersome to me as a person that promotes music that this record has been out for a few months now, and almost, at least here in the States, it just hasn't gotten any love yet. So
I mean, I'm telling you, it's killing over here though. I cannot be. I mean, I have a lot of U.S. stuff happening, but it's the label too. Okay, they're not milking it, but I'll tell you, in Europe, one of the biggest selling albums I've done in years.
That's great,
and
man.
I just did, I think 4 reviews yesterday with France. And then France was kind of weak for me. But, I mean, the album's got legs. They're reprinting it, which is a rarity nowadays.
Sure.
Because I'm going on tour with the boss, and I've only got so many copies here. They got to deliver with DHL. I have them waiting because, my brand is the album cover. All that stuff just kind of fell into place and worked.
Right.
So, I mean, and I toured in November when it came out. I went to Spain. I went to a bunch of Scandinavian territories, and 2 of the videos have been out. And when you look out and see somebody singing "Perfect Apocalypse" along with you in Madrid, that's a pretty cool feeling.
Sure.
They know they've got the album in their hand, and they're standing at the merch booth. Sign it, sign Eat the Heat, sign Bangalore Choir, and let me buy 2 of those shirts. And you go, they feel it. Excellent. So I'm pretty excited. I mean, the matchup is great. It's going to be like the big fight, that you wait for. It's like two rock guys that have known each other their whole life, and
sure.
And we like each other. We're kind of the same. We don't have that attitude. I'm the coolest thing since milk. I mean, it's not like that.
Right.
U.D.O can walk on a stage, and he just has this thing like I'm one of you, this metal thing. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And you just feel this electricity when he walks into a room. It's like, there he is,
Yeah, no, very good, man. Well, David, the name of the album, in case people haven't picked it up, is Resilient Heart. It is available now. It's available everywhere. People, I'm gonna make a statement. You're gonna disagree with me, probably, maybe not. Even if you don't pay for it, even if you go to YouTube Music to hear it, go hear it. Because it is as solid a hard rock metal record as has been put out in the last year. So people need to hear it. Why don't we do this? We always let the artist pick the closing track to wrap up an interview. Maybe tell us a quick story about it. So what would you like us to wrap this one up with so that people can get a good taste?
We've got videos up, blah, 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 blah. Since we both love 2 Coins and a Dead Man, let's go with that one. The song is about when you die and they place the coins in your eyes and they float you off if you're going to heaven and hell. I play the devil in the video. You can see it on YouTube or Spotify. It's basically, I get murdered in it. It's got a heavy riff. It's got kind of a David Bowie verse line into the power Reece thing that you're used to. I think it's one of the greatest songs I've ever written, and obviously you love it too. So I'd say throw that out at him and go to Spotify. If you don't want to buy it, stream a few tracks, listen to it. I mean, I'm not getting rich off Spotify, guys. I just want to, and I might be coming to the States. I'm going to actually talk to a guy about 8:00 tonight over here and go to Texas and Florida if it's reasonable.
Sure.
So I'm going to try to get over and play that in some of my catalog. But that would be the song I'd like to sign off with.
All right. Well, let's play it right now. It's 2 Coins and a Dead Man. It is Reece right here on your Classic Metal Show.